we've talked about this wonderful mission experience, what it means with the relationship between the youth, what it means with the relationship with parents, the home congregation, and the community we're going to serve. But what happens after this experience is over?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kendra, because when the pilgrim went on the pilgrimage, there was these extraordinary experiences of the road and at the destination, with the monastery, with the holy men or women, with the engagement with the relics and the prayer and the sense of the holiness of the space. They didn't do it just to have a momentary high and then come home and just reintegrate into life as if nothing had happened. They did it so that they would have an experience that drew them closer to God, that would transform their very lives. But that means what happens after you get home, right? There's some great work that's been done by Don Richter in a book called Mission Trips That Matter, where he makes a distinction between communitas and koinonia. And the distinction he makes is it's just an anthropological fact. Put people into a common venture, have them share time together, have them engage in the same tasks and challenges and problem solve and tell their stories. They will become close, but they will only become close while they're on the road. The master and the serf, the lord and the peasant would go on pilgrimage, and they would shed their status distinctions for the time of the trip in this communitas way. Then they'd come home and they'd reintegrate as lord and serf, etc. And it wasn't enduring in terms of community. What Richter wants to argue for is a sense of relationship and depth and transformation on the road, that not only do you come closer to God and Christ in the spirituality of the trip and closer to one another in the developing of communitas, but something happens beyond simple anthropologic commonality. Spirit happens. And the Holy Spirit, and only the Holy Spirit, can turn the community into what is essentially a congregation or a church where there's koinonia. And in this spiritual relationship, you have a hope and a prospect that this is going to endure beyond the time that you're eating every meal together, walking every day together, working together, worshiping every night. That, I think, is what we want. So what happens when you come home from a mission trip? They come home with this incredible sense that they have seen another way to be. They've seen a way of unconditional love. They've seen a way that transcends the judgment and insecurities. They have had a sense of being buoyed and supported and open to God, and then boom, they're back in the high school. This can be a hard landing. And I think it's our responsibility to nurture the continuation of the community and hold on to reflecting on what we've learned and then moving forward. But here's the deal. I think the deal is if you just let nature take its course, you'll come home. The kids will race to each other at the high school because of that sense of community for a couple of weeks. They'll race over the church in the afternoons because they want to be together, or to whatever diner they go to in the afternoons. And they'll bring out the pictures, and they'll look at the pictures, and they'll tell the stories, and they'll look at the pictures, and they'll tell the stories, and they'll look at the video clips, and then it will slowly, slowly fade. I think what we learned from the disciples in the upper room is that when they were all coming together and they wanted to be together every day with prayer and they shared all things together, they didn't just hang out being nostalgic about remember when Jesus was with us. The only way they stayed in spiritual community was by discerning what are we called to next. It's only by continuing the pilgrimage, even if it's in situ, right, where you are, the pilgrimage has to continue for the community to be a spiritual community. So part of our discernment is God has blessed us in this extraordinary way. Well, like Abraham, we've been blessed so that we may be a blessing. What is our calling forward? So as we continue the mission trip by continuing Vespers, continuing worship, or we identify we're going on this mission project down to New York City or to Bridgeport, we're going as teams, we're living the mission life. Now we have a prospect of holding on to the ethos, the relationships, the koinonia of mission trip life, even though we're now home, off to school and back to our separate homes. But I think that's the goal. It's not easy, but I think that's the goal, that the pilgrimage continue.